The year was 2287, and humanity had finally joined the galactic community. For 50 years, humans had been exploring space, meeting alien races, and learning the rules of this vast universe. But now Earth faced its biggest challenge yet. Station Helios 9 floated in neutral space, a massive structure where different alien species came to settle their disputes. It was built like a giant wheel, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Inside the station, there was a special arena where warriors fought to solve conflicts between their peoples. This was the way of the galaxy. No wars, no massive battles. Just single combat between champions. Daehyun stood in his small quarters on the station, looking out at the stars. He was 34 years old with calm eyes and a quiet presence. His black hair was cut short, and his body showed years of training. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy. He had been a martial arts instructor in the Earth Defense Force, teaching soldiers how to fight without weapons. Now the fate of 3 worlds rested on his shoulders. The door opened and Jiwoo walked in. She was a diplomat from Earth, smart and serious. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she carried a data tablet in her hands. She looked worried. The Krovan delegation arrived an hour ago, she said. Their champion is with them. His name is Vextor. Daehyun nodded but did not speak. He continued looking at the stars. Jiwoo activated her tablet and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a massive creature 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales. The alien had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His eyes were yellow and cold. Sharp teeth filled his mouth. He has never lost a fight, Jiwoo continued. 147 matches, 147 victories. 17 of his opponents died. The rest were badly injured. Daehyun finally turned to look at the image. He studied Vextor carefully, his eyes moving over every detail. What weapon does he use? Daehyun asked. A plasma-edged blade, Jiwoo said. It is 3 feet long and can cut through steel like paper. The blade is powered by an energy cell. It never gets dull. Daehyun smiled slightly. Impressive. Jiwoo looked frustrated. Impressive? Daehyun, this creature is a killing machine. The Krovan Empire has been using him to take territory from smaller species for 10 years. No one can beat him. No one has beaten him yet, Daehyun corrected her gently. The door opened again, and another woman entered. This was Hana, the station's medical officer. She was younger than Jiwoo, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She had been assigned to take care of Daehyun during his stay on the station. The Krovan commander wants to meet you, Hana said. He sent a formal request. You do not have to go, but it might be good to see your opponents before the fight. Daehyun nodded. I will go. Jiwoo grabbed his arm. Are you sure? They will try to intimidate you. That is their way. I know, Daehyun said, but I need to see them. I need to understand how they think. An hour later, Daehyun walked through the corridors of Station Helios 9. The station was filled with aliens from dozens of different worlds. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide. Some had fur, others had scales or skin like humans. They all stopped to look at Daehyun as he passed. Word had spread that Earth's champion was on the station. The Krovan delegation had taken over an entire section of the station. Armed guards stood at every entrance, their weapons visible. Daehyun walked past them without showing any fear. Jiwoo and Hana followed close behind. Inside the main room, a group of Krovans waited. They were all large and intimidating, but one stood out. He wore a military uniform covered in medals. His scales were darker than the others, almost black. This was Thalric, the Krovan commander. So this is humanity's champion, Thalric said in perfect Earth language. His voice was deep and mocking. You are smaller than I expected. Daehyun bowed respectfully. I am honored to meet you. Thalric laughed, a harsh sound. The other Krovans joined in. Honored? You should be terrified, human. Do you know what Vextor will do to you? I know he is a skilled warrior, Daehyun said calmly. Skilled? Thalric walked closer. He towered over Daehyun, using his size to intimidate. He is the greatest fighter in the Krovan Empire. He has trained since he was born to kill. What are you? A teacher? You teach children how to dance and call it fighting. Daehyun did not react to the insult. His face remained calm. May I see Vextor? Thalric smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Of course. He is eager to meet the creature he will kill tomorrow. A door opened and Vextor entered the room. He was even more impressive in person than in the hologram. His 4 arms moved with perfect coordination. Each muscle in his body was clearly defined. His yellow eyes locked onto Daehyun, studying him like a predator studies prey. Vextor walked forward until he stood directly in front of Daehyun. The size difference was enormous. Vextor could probably crush Daehyun's skull with one hand. "You are brave to face me," Vextor said. His voice was surprisingly clear. "Or perhaps just foolish." "Perhaps both," Daehyun replied. Vextor's eyes narrowed. "Do you have a weapon yet?" "Yes, what is it?" Daehyun paused for a moment. "A wooden sword." The room fell silent. Then Thalric burst out laughing. The other Crovens joined in, their laughter filling the room. Even Vextor's mouth opened in what might have been a smile. "A wooden sword?" Thalric repeated, barely able to speak through his laughter. "This is a joke. You mock our sacred tradition. You mock the combat arena." "I do not mock anything," Daehyun said quietly. "The wooden sword is a training weapon from Earth. I have used it for 20 years. It is the weapon I know best." Vextor stopped smiling. He leaned down, bringing his face close to Daehyun's. "I will cut your wooden toy in half with my first strike. Then I will cut you in half with my second." "Perhaps," Daehyun said. He bowed again. "I look forward to our match." He turned and walked out of the room. Jiwoo and Hana followed quickly. Behind them, the Crovens continued laughing. Once they were back in the corridor, Jiwoo exploded. "A wooden sword? Daehyun, have you lost your mind? That thing's blade will go through wood like it is not even there." "I know," Daehyun said. "Then why?" Jiwoo demanded. "Why not use a plasma sword? Why not use something that can actually defend against his weapon?" Daehyun stopped walking. He turned to face both women. His eyes were serious but not worried. "Because they expect me to try to match his strength," Daehyun explained. "Every opponent Vextor has fought tried to beat him with power. They brought bigger weapons, stronger armor, more aggressive tactics. All of them lost. So what will you do differently?" Hana asked quietly. "I will not try to match his strength," Daehyun said. "I will use what he does not expect. Speed, timing, technique. These things matter more than the sharpness of a blade." Jiwoo shook her head. "I hope you are right. Because if you are wrong, 3 human colonies will become Crovan territory, and you will be dead," Daehyun smiled. "Then I better not be wrong." That night, Daehyun meditated in his quarters. He sat on the floor with his eyes closed, breathing slowly. In his mind, he replayed every piece of footage Jiwoo had given him. He watched how Vextor moved, how he attacked, how he defended. He studied the alien warrior's patterns, his preferences, his weaknesses. Every fighter had weaknesses. Even the greatest champion. The key was finding them before it was too late. The wooden sword he had requested would arrive tomorrow morning, just hours before the match. It was being shipped from Earth at great expense. Some people thought he was crazy. Maybe he was. But Daehyun knew something the Crovens did not understand. A weapon was just a tool. The real weapon was the mind of the person holding it. And Daehyun had spent his entire life sharpening his mind. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see what a human could do with a simple piece of wood. News traveled fast on Station Helios 9. By morning, every alien on the station knew about Daehyun's choice of weapon. A wooden sword. The human champion would fight the unbeatable Vextor with nothing but a piece of wood. The aliens could not believe it. Some thought it was a translation error. Others thought the humans had given up and chosen death over dishonor. A few thought it might be some kind of human trick. But they could not imagine what kind of trick would involve bringing a wooden stick to a plasma blade fight. Daehyun woke early. He performed his morning routine the same as every other day. Stretching, breathing exercises, meditation. Hana brought him breakfast, simple food that would give him energy without making him feel heavy. "The betting pools have gone crazy," Hana said as she set down the tray. "The odds are now 50-1 against you. Some aliens are betting their entire fortunes on Vextor." Daehyun ate slowly, chewing each bite completely. "That means if I win, some people will become very rich." "If you win," Hana repeated quietly. She sat down across from him. "Daehyun, I have read your file. I know you are an expert in martial arts, but this is not a training hall. Vextor will try to kill you. I know. And you truly believe a wooden sword can defeat him?" Daehyun looked at her with his calm eyes. "I believe that skill can defeat strength. I believe that understanding can defeat aggression. The wooden sword is just the tool I will use to prove it." There was a knock on the door. Jiwoo entered, looking even more stressed than yesterday. She carried a long case in her hands. "Your weapon arrived," she said. She did not sound happy about it. Daehyun stood and took the case. He opened it carefully. Inside, resting on soft cloth, was a bakken. This was the traditional name for a wooden training sword from Japan. It was made from red oak, shaped like a katana but without any sharp edges. The wood was smooth from years of use. It was 30 inches long and weighed about 2 pounds. Daehyun lifted it out of the case. He held it in his right hand, feeling its familiar weight and balance. This was not just any bakken. This was his bakken, the one he had trained with for 2 decades. Every scratch on its surface told a story of practice, of lessons learned. It looked so ordinary, Jiwoo said. Are you absolutely certain about this? Daehyun did not answer. He moved into an open space in the room and began performing slow movements. The bakken cut through the air with controlled precision. His footwork was careful, each step exactly where it needed to be. He moved through a series of techniques, each one flowing into the next. Jiwoo and Hana watched in silence. There was something mesmerizing about his movements. Nothing was wasted. Every motion had purpose. After 10 minutes, Daehyun stopped. He was not even breathing hard. He set the bakken back in its case. I am ready, he said simply. At noon, Thalric held a press conference in the station's main media center. Aliens from 100 different worlds watched, either in person or through broadcasts. The Krovan commander stood behind a podium looking confident and proud. Today, the Krovan Empire will demonstrate once again why we are the dominant military power in this sector, Thalric announced. Our champion, Vextor, will face the human challenger in honorable combat. Behind him, a large screen activated. It showed 2 images side by side. On the left was Vextor's plasma blade glowing with deadly energy. On the right was Daehyun's bakken, plain and simple. The humans have chosen to insult this sacred tradition, Thalric continued. They send their champion with a child's toy, a piece of wood. This shows how little they value the colonies they claim to want. This shows their weakness and their foolishness. The alien reporters in the audience murmured among themselves. Some seemed to agree with Thalric. Others looked uncomfortable. A few seemed curious about what the humans were planning. One reporter, a tall insect-like creature, raised a limb to ask a question. Commander Thalric, is it possible the human knows something about combat that the Krovan Empire does not? Thalric's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting that a primitive wooden stick is somehow superior to advanced Krovan technology? I am suggesting that the human must have a reason for his choice, the reporter replied. Humans are known for being unpredictable. Unpredictable, yes. Suicidal also, yes, Thalric said. Tomorrow's fight will be very short. I almost feel sorry for the human. Almost. In the human delegation's quarters, Jiwoo watched the press conference with growing anger. The other human diplomats sat around her, all of them looking worried. This is a disaster, one of them said. We are being humiliated across the galaxy. Earth's reputation is being destroyed. Maybe we should request a delay, another suggested. Give Daehyun time to choose a proper weapon. No, Jiwoo said firmly. Daehyun has made his choice. We have to trust him. Trust him? The first diplomat said loudly. He is going to get killed. And when he dies, we lose 3 colonies. Millions of humans will come under Krovan rule. All because he wanted to use a wooden sword. Jiwoo stood up. Daehyun is the best martial artist on Earth. The military committee reviewed hundreds of candidates before choosing him. They chose him because he has never lost a fight. Not once in 15 years of competition. Competition is different from real combat, the diplomat argued, is it? Jiwoo asked. Daehyun has trained soldiers who went into real combat. His techniques have saved lives. He knows what he is doing. But even as she defended Daehyun, Jiwoo felt doubt creeping into her heart. She had watched footage of Vextor's fights. She had seen how easily the Krovan champion destroyed his opponents. Could any amount of skill overcome such raw power? That afternoon, Daehyun went to the arena to see the space where he would fight. The arena was enormous, a circular area 50 meters across. The floor was made of stone, with different levels and several tall pillars scattered around. These obstacles were meant to make fights more interesting, giving fighters places to use tactics instead of just trading blows in the open. Daehyun walked around the entire space, studying every detail. He noticed how the light fell, creating shadows behind the pillars. He tested the stone floor with his foot, checking for grip. He looked at the viewing areas where thousands of aliens would watch. Hana accompanied him, staying quiet while he explored. Finally, she asked, "What are you looking for?" Advantages, Daehyun said. Every space has advantages and disadvantages. I need to know them all. Will you use the pillars to hide? Maybe. Or maybe I will use them to control distance. He touched one of the pillars, feeling its surface. This stone is rough. Good for traction if I need to change direction quickly. They walked in silence for a while. Then Hana said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Why did you agree to do this?" "You could have said no." "Let someone else risk their life." Daehyun stopped walking. He looked up at the dome above the arena, where stars were visible through transparent panels. "When I was young, I learned martial arts because I thought it would make me strong," he said. "I wanted to be the best fighter, to win tournaments, to earn respect. But my master taught me that this was the wrong reason." "What is the right reason?" Hana asked. "To protect others, to serve something greater than yourself." He looked at her. 3 colonies full of humans need protection. I have the skills to provide that protection. How could I say no?" Hana smiled. "You are either the bravest person I have ever met, or the craziest, maybe both," Daehyun said, repeating what he had told Vextor yesterday. That evening, as the station's artificial sun dimmed to simulate night, Daehyun received a message on his communication device. It was from Vextor. "Human champion," the message read in translated text. "I have been told you are an honorable warrior. I want you to know that I will make your death quick. You have shown courage even if you have not shown wisdom. May you find peace in whatever afterlife your species believes in." Daehyun thought about how to respond. Finally, he sent back a simple message. "Thank you, Vextor. May the better warrior win tomorrow. I look forward to our match." Jiwoo came to his quarters late that night. She found him sitting in meditation, the Bakken resting across his knees. "I watched recordings of your old fights," she said, "from your tournament days. You were amazing. Fast, precise, creative. But those opponents were human. They followed rules. They stopped when someone tapped out. I know. Vextor will not stop. He will not show mercy. I know that too." Jiwoo sat down on the floor across from him. "Then tell me honestly, do you really think you can win?" Daehyun opened his eyes. In the dim light, his face was serious but not afraid. "I think that Vextor has spent his entire life learning how to be strong," Daehyun said. "He has become the strongest fighter in his empire. But strength is only one aspect of combat. There is also timing, distance, balance, psychology, adaptation. Vextor has never needed these things because his strength was always enough. And you have these things? I have spent 20 years studying them. My wooden sword is not a toy, Jiwoo. It is a tool that has been refined by thousands of years of human martial tradition. Masters have been teaching other masters how to use it since ancient times. All of that knowledge, all of that wisdom is contained in the techniques I know." He stood up, holding the Bakken. "Tomorrow, Vextor will learn that a weapon is only as good as the person using it. And I will teach him that sometimes." The arena was completely full. Over 10,000 beings from 40 different species packed the viewing areas, creating a noise that echoed off the walls. Some had traveled for weeks to witness this fight. The match between humanity and the Krovan. Empire was the biggest event on Station Helios 9 in years. Daehyun stood in the preparation room beneath the arena. He wore simple white training clothes and soft cloth shoes. His Bakken rested against the wall. Jiwoo, Hana, and several other human delegates stood with him. "The rules are simple," Jiwoo said, reviewing what they already knew. "Fight until one person surrenders, cannot continue, or dies. No time limit, no breaks. The referee can stop the fight only if someone is clearly unable to defend themselves." Daehyun nodded. He was stretching, keeping his muscles warm and loose. "Are you nervous?" Hana asked quietly. "No," Daehyun said. "Nervousness comes from not knowing what will happen. I have prepared for every possibility. Now I just need to execute." Above them, they could hear the crowd getting louder. The match was about to begin. An official entered the room. He was a short, round alien with gray skin and large eyes. "Human champion, it is time." Daehyun picked up his Bakken. He held it loosely in his right hand, the wooden blade pointing down. He looked at Jiwoo and Hana. "Thank you for your support," he said simply. "Win," Jiwoo said. "Just win." The walk to the arena felt long. Daehyun moved through a tunnel lit by bright lights. The noise grew louder with each step. His heart beat steadily in his chest, calm and strong. His mind was clear, focused only on what was to come. He emerged into the arena and the crowd's noise hit him like a physical force. Thousands of aliens stared down at him from the viewing areas. Some cheered, but many more booed. He saw signs in various alien languages. Most of them mocked him. Daehyun walked to the center of the arena. The stone felt solid under his feet. The temperature was comfortable, the air clean. Everything was exactly as it had been when he scouted the space yesterday. On the opposite side of the arena, another tunnel opened. The crowd's noise changed, becoming a roar of excitement. Vextor emerged. The Krovan champion looked even more impressive in his fighting armor. Black plates covered his vital areas, but his four arms remained free for maximum movement. His plasma blade hung at his side, not yet activated. He walked with absolute confidence, his yellow eyes locked on Daehyun. Vextor reached the center of the arena and stood 10 meters away from Daehyun. The size difference was shocking. Vextor was more than twice Daehyun's weight and almost twice his height. His forearms gave him options no human could match. The referee, a tall insect-like alien in official robes, stepped between them. "This combat is sanctioned by the Galactic Council," the referee announced, his voice amplified to reach every part of the arena. "The result will be legally binding. The victor's species claims the disputed territories. Do both champions understand?" "I understand," Vextor said. "I understand," Daehyun replied. "Do both champions have their chosen weapons?" Vextor reached to his side and activated his plasma blade. The weapon hummed to life, its edge glowing with blue energy. The crowd cheered. Daehyun simply raised his Bakken slightly. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some laughed, others seemed confused. The referee looked at both fighters. "Then let the combat begin." He scuttled quickly to the edge of the arena, getting out of the way. For a moment, both fighters stood still. They studied each other across the 10 meters of space. Daehyun held his Bakken in one hand, relaxed. Vextor held his blade in his upper right hand, ready. Then Vextor moved. The Krovan champion exploded forward with shocking speed for something so large. His forearms pumped as he closed the distance in less than 2 seconds. His blade came down in a powerful overhead strike meant to split Daehyun from head to waist. Daehyun did not retreat backward. Instead, he moved forward and to the right, slipping past Vextor's strike by mere inches. The plasma blade smashed into the stone floor where Daehyun had been standing, sending chips of rock flying. The crowd gasped. Vextor recovered instantly and spun, his blade cutting horizontally at chest height. Again, Daehyun moved forward, this time to the left. The blade passed behind him, missing by centimeters. The crowd's noise grew louder. This was not what they expected. Vextor pressed his attack. His blade became a blur of blue light, cutting from every angle, high, low, left, right. The Krovan champion used all forearms to create combinations, grabbing and striking and slashing in patterns that should have been impossible to avoid. But Daehyun avoided them all. He moved like water, flowing around each attack. His footwork was precise, never taking a step that was not necessary. His upper body swayed, leaned, twisted. Sometimes he moved forward, getting inside Vextor's reach. Sometimes he circled. He never backed up in a straight line, and he had not yet attacked. Not once. In the human delegation box, Jiwoo gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. "What is he doing?" she whispered. Hana watched more carefully. "He is learning," she said. "Look at his eyes. He is studying every move Vextor makes." It was true. Daehyun's face showed total concentration. His eyes tracked not just the blade, but Vextor's shoulders, hips, feet. He was reading the champion's body language, learning to predict attacks before they happened. 2 minutes into the fight, something changed. Vextor had been attacking with confidence, sure that eventually one of his strikes would land. But now doubt crept into his mind. How was this small human avoiding everything? He roared in frustration and increased his speed. His blade moved even faster, the plasma edge cutting through the air with a high-pitched whine. Daehyun continued his dance of avoidance, but now he added something new. Occasionally his Bakken would move. Just small movements, little taps. When Vextor's blade came from the right, Daehyun's wooden sword would touch the flat of the blade just for a moment, not blocking, not stopping it, just redirecting it slightly. Each tap changed Vextor's blade path by tiny amounts. A strike, aimed at Daehyun's chest, would be tapped to pass by his shoulder. A low cut at his legs would be tapped to hit the ground a few inches to the left. Vextor felt it. Each tap threw off his rhythm just a little bit. It was like fighting in water, where everything moved slightly differently than expected. 3 minutes into the fight, both warriors had moved around the entire arena. Vextor had thrown over 100 strikes. Not a single one had landed. He was breathing harder now, his forearms starting to feel heavy. Daehyun's breathing remained steady. His movements had not slowed at all. The crowd watched in stunned silence. This was not how Vextor's fights usually went. Normally, his opponents were either cut down in the first minute or forced into desperate defense that eventually failed. This human was different. This human was not trying to match strength with strength. Thalric stood in the Krovan delegation box, his face twisted with anger. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why has Vextor not finished this?" One of his advisors spoke carefully. "The human is very skilled at evasion, but he cannot avoid forever. Eventually he will make a mistake." "He better," Thalric growled. Back in the arena, Vextor tried a new approach. He used his forearms to create a wide, sweeping attack that covered multiple angles at once. There should be no way to avoid it. Daehyun dropped low, almost to the ground, and rolled forward. He came up inside Vextor's guard, too close for the long blade to be effective. For a brief moment, they were almost touching. Then Daehyun's Bakken moved. Fast as a striking snake, the wooden sword jabbed forward, hitting Vextor's upper right wrist. It was a precise strike, hitting exactly on a nerve cluster. Vextor's hand spasmed. His grip on the plasma blade weakened for just an instant. Daehyun was already moving away, back to safe distance. Vextor looked at his wrist in surprise. There was no cut, no visible damage. But his hand tingled strangely. What kind of attack was that? "First blood to the human," the referee announced. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, others booed. Everyone was confused. How was this wooden weapon causing damage? Daehyun settled back into his stance, Bakken held ready. His face remained calm, but inside he smiled. The theory worked in practice. He did not need to cut. He just needed to strike the right places. Vextor's confusion turned to anger. He charged again, this time with even more aggression. His blade cut through one of the stone pillars, splitting it in half. The top portion crashed to the ground. Daehyun used the falling debris as cover. He moved behind it, and when Vextor came around, Daehyun was not where the champion expected. The Bakken struck again, this time hitting Vextor's lower left elbow. Again, the precise strike targeted a nerve. Vextor roared in pain. His lower left arm went numb for several seconds. The crowd was on their feet now. This was not the quick victory they had expected. The human was actually fighting back. And somehow, impossibly, his wooden sword was hurting the mighty Vextor. 4 minutes into the fight, Vextor changed his strategy again. He stopped trying to overwhelm Daehyun with speed and power. Instead, he became more careful, more defensive. He kept his blade between them, using it to control space. Daehyun recognized the shift. Good. The champion was learning. This would make things more interesting. They circled each other, both watching for openings. The pace of the fight had slowed, but the tension increased. Vextor walked slowly to where his plasma blade lay on the ground. His upper right arm was starting to regain feeling, painful tingles shooting through the nerves. He bent down and picked up the weapon with his lower right hand instead. His upper right hand still could not grip properly. The crowd remained silent, watching. This was unprecedented. In Krovan culture, showing mercy to an opponent was considered either great honor or great insult. Which one was this? Vextor returned to fighting position, his blade held ready. But something had changed in his eyes. The arrogant confidence was gone. Now there was focus, calculation. He finally understood that this human was not a weak opponent with a silly weapon. This was a true warrior. "Thank you for the honor," Vextor said. His voice carried respect that had not been there before. "You are welcome," Daehyun replied. They began to circle each other again. The energy in the arena had shifted. What started as expected slaughter had become something else. A real fight, a contest between two skilled warriors. Vextor attacked again, but differently now. He was more cautious, more technical. He used shorter strikes, keeping his blade closer to his body. He paid attention to Daehyun's footwork, trying to predict movements. Daehyun responded in kind. Now that Vextor was fighting smarter, he could be more aggressive. His Bakken began to probe the champion's defense, testing for openings. The wooden sword struck Vextor's blade, not to block but to control it. Each contact pushed the plasma weapon slightly offline, creating tiny windows of opportunity. Daehyun flowed through these windows, his Bakken finding targets on Vextor's arms and body. Strike to the wrist, strike to the elbow, strike to the shoulder. Each hit was precise, targeting pressure points and nerve clusters. The Bakken was not cutting, but each impact sent shockwaves through muscle and bone. Vextor began to realize the full scope of what he faced. This human had spent years learning exactly where to strike for maximum effect. The wooden sword was not a toy. It was a surgical instrument in the hands of a master. 7 minutes into the fight, Vextor's movements were noticeably slower. His arms ached. His joints throbbed with pain. Several of his pressure points had been struck multiple times, and the cumulative damage was adding up. In contrast, Daehyun had barely been touched. One close call where Vextor's blade had grazed his sleeve, but no actual contact with skin. The Krovan delegation watched in growing horror. Thalric's face had gone from angry to pale. This could not be happening. Vextor never struggled like this. Vextor never got hurt. Vextor never showed weakness, but here he was, clearly damaged, clearly struggling against a human with a wooden sword. In the human delegation box, understanding was dawning. Jiwoo watched Daehyun's technique with new eyes. "He is not trying to cut Vextor," she said to the other delegates. "He is systematically breaking down the champion's ability to fight. Every strike serves a purpose. It is like watching a master surgeon," Hana added. "Each cut precise, each action deliberate." One of the older diplomats, a man who had studied military history, nodded. "This is ancient martial philosophy. The goal is not to kill the opponent. The goal is to control the opponent. Death is just one form of control." They watched as Daehyun demonstrated this philosophy in real time. Vextor tried a powerful overhead strike, using 3 of his arms together for maximum force. Daehyun did not try to block the attack directly. Instead, he moved to the side at the last instant and struck the champion's upper left wrist as the blade passed. The impact was perfectly timed. Vextor's own momentum and force worked against him. His wrist bent at a painful angle, and he almost dropped the blade again. Daehyun was already moving, his Bakken striking Vextor's lower right knee. The champion's leg buckled slightly. The crowd was roaring now, but the noise had changed. It was no longer mockery. It was excitement, awe, disbelief. They were watching something that should be impossible. 8 minutes in, and the once unbeatable champion was hurt, tired, and making mistakes. Vextor knew he was in trouble. His training had not prepared him for this. Every opponent he had faced before tried to match his strength, tried to beat him through power. This human was doing the opposite. Daehyun was using Vextor's own strength against him. Every powerful swing left Vextor exposed for a moment. Every aggressive attack created an opening. Daehyun exploited these openings with surgical precision. The champion tried to adapt to become more defensive. But defense was not his specialty. He had spent his entire life training to attack, to overwhelm, to destroy. Fighting carefully felt wrong, unnatural. Daehyun sensed the confusion and pressed his advantage. His attacks became more frequent, coming from different angles. High, low, left, right. The Bakken seemed to be everywhere at once. Strike to the ribs, strike to the shoulder, strike to the thigh. Each hit added to the damage. Vextor's armor protected him from cuts, but it could not stop the force from transferring through. His muscles were bruising. His bones ached. 9 minutes into the fight, Vextor made a desperate decision. He dropped his plasma blade and tried to grab Daehyun with all 4 arms. If he could just get his hands on the human, his superior strength would end this quickly. But Daehyun had been waiting for exactly this move. The moment Vextor committed to the grab, Daehyun moved, not away but forward and down. He slid between Vextor's legs, his Bakken striking the back of the champion's knee as he passed. Vextor's leg collapsed, and the massive warrior fell to one knee. Daehyun came up behind him, Bakken already moving. He struck Vextor's spine right between the shoulder blades. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage, but hard enough to send a shock through the champion's entire nervous system. Vextor gasped in pain. Daehyun completed his movement and ended up facing Vextor from the side, 5 feet away. The plasma blade lay on the ground between them. "Get your weapon," Daehyun said. His voice was calm, showing no signs of the intense physical effort he had been making. Vextor slowly stood up. His lower right leg hurt badly. His back felt like fire. He reached for his blade, picked it up with his lower left hand. His upper arms were too damaged to grip properly anymore. The crowd watched in amazement. The human kept giving Vextor chances to recover. This was either incredible honor or supreme confidence. Maybe both. Thalric could not believe what he was seeing. "This is not possible," he said to his advisors. "How is a wooden stick defeating plasma technology?" One of the advisors, older and wiser than the rest, spoke quietly. "It is not the stick that is defeating us, Commander. It is the mind controlling the stick." 10 minutes into the fight, Vextor was running on determination alone. His body was failing him. His arms felt like lead. His legs were unsteady. Pain radiated from a dozen different points on his body. Daehyun looked fresh in comparison. His breathing was elevated but controlled. His movements remained precise. The Bakken felt light in his hands. Vextor charged one more time, roaring with effort. His blade cut through the air in a wide arc. Daehyun ducked under it and stepped close. His Bakken struck Vextor's solar plexus, a point just below the chest where several nerve clusters met. The champion's breath exploded out of his lungs. His vision went blurry for a moment. His legs shook. Daehyun's next strike hit Vextor's upper right shoulder, targeting the joint. The arm went completely numb, hanging useless at the champion's side. Another strike to the lower left wrist. The plasma blade clattered to the ground again. Vextor stood there swaying, 3 of his 4 arms damaged or numb. His weapon was gone again. His breathing was labored. His yellow eyes, once so fierce, now showed exhaustion and pain. Daehyun stood 5 feet away, Bakken pointed at Vextor's throat. He could end this now with one strike. A blow to the throat would crush the windpipe. A strike to the temple would cause unconsciousness. A hit to the neck would damage the spine. The arena fell silent. Everyone waited to see what the human would do. "You have fought with great honor," Daehyun said clearly. "You are a mighty warrior. But this fight is over." Vextor looked at the wooden sword pointed at his throat. Then he looked at Daehyun's eyes. There was no anger there, no hatred, just respect between warriors. The champion understood. He had been defeated. Not by a trick. Not by luck, by skill. By technique perfected over years of training. By a philosophy of combat that was older than the Krovan Empire itself. Vextor slowly lowered himself to one knee. He bowed his head. The posture was universal, recognized across the galaxy. Surrender. "I yield," Vextor said, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "The victory is yours, human. You are the superior warrior." The referee rushed forward. "The match is concluded. The human champion is victorious." For a moment, nothing happened. The crowd seemed frozen in shock. Then the arena exploded with noise. Cheering, shouting, roaring, aliens of every species jumped to their feet. Some were celebrating humanity's victory. Others were simply in awe of what they had witnessed. Daehyun lowered his Bakken. He stepped forward and offered his hand to Vextor. The champion looked at the hand in surprise, then took it with his lower right hand. Daehyun helped pull the massive warrior to his feet. "You honored this arena with your skill," Vextor said. "I have fought 148 matches. Today I learned what it truly means to face a master." "You pushed me to my limits," Daehyun replied. The medical bay was busy after the fight. Vextor lay on a special table designed for Krovan physiology, while doctors worked on him. His injuries were not life-threatening, but they were extensive. Bruised muscles, strained joints, nerve damage in 3 of his 4 arms. He would recover, but it would take weeks. Hana worked alongside the alien doctors, helping where she could. She checked each of Daehyun's strikes on the medical scans and marveled at the precision. Every single hit had landed exactly where it would cause maximum effect without permanent damage. Not one strike had been wasted. Not one had been accidental. This human knew exactly what he was doing, one of the alien doctors said. These are the strikes of someone who understands anatomy perfectly. Dae-hyun himself had refused medical attention. He had a few bruises, some muscle soreness, but nothing serious. He sat in a private room, meditating and letting his body recover naturally. The Bakken rested on his lap, its wooden surface unmarked despite the intense combat. Jiwoo found him there an hour after the fight. She knocked on the open door and he opened his eyes. The Krovan delegation has formally acknowledged our victory, she said. The 3 colonies remain under Earth control. The treaty will be signed tomorrow. Dae-hyun nodded. That is good. Good? Jiwoo laughed. Dae-hyun, you just won 3 worlds for humanity. You defeated the most feared warrior in this sector of space. You are a hero. I just did my job, he said simply. Jiwoo sat down across from him. The news is spreading across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Every species is talking about what happened. They are calling you the Wooden Sword Master. Some are calling this fight the greatest combat match in modern galactic history. People like a good story, Dae-hyun said. This is more than a story. You changed how every species in the galaxy views humanity. Before today, they saw us as newcomers, primitive compared to races that have been traveling space for thousands of years. Now they see us as people who perfect their skills, who value technique over technology, who can compete at the highest levels. Dae-hyun looked at his Bakken. This piece of wood is over 3,000 years old in design. Human martial arts have been refined for longer than most alien species have had space travel. We bring something different to the galaxy. Not better or worse, just different. There was a knock on the door frame. Both Jiwoo and Dae-hyun turned to see Vextor standing there. The champion's right arms were in supportive braces. He moved slowly, obviously in pain, but he had insisted on walking here himself. May I enter? Vextor asked. Of course, Dae-hyun said, standing up. Vextor came into the room. Behind him, Thalric and several other Krovan officials waited in the hallway watching. The champion stood before Dae-hyun. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Vextor did something that shocked everyone. He performed a deep bow, the Krovan gesture of ultimate respect. His 3 working arms crossed over his chest, and he lowered his head. I have come to request a favor, Vextor said. Name it, Dae-hyun replied. Teach me. The words came out quietly but clearly. I have spent my entire life believing that strength was supreme, that superior weapons and superior force would always win. You showed me the truth. Technique matters. Strategy matters. Understanding matters. I wish to learn these things. Dae-hyun looked at the Krovan warrior with respect. It took great courage to admit defeat. It took even greater courage to ask your victor to teach you. I would be honored, Dae-hyun said, but I must return to Earth soon. My duties call me home. Then allow me to come to Earth, Vextor said. Let me study your martial arts. Let me understand the philosophy behind your techniques. When I am healed, I wish to train under your guidance. Jiwoo started to object, worried about having the Krovan champion on Earth. But Dae-hyun raised a hand to stop her. You are welcome to study with me, Dae-hyun said, but I must warn you. The path of true martial arts is long and difficult. It is not about learning to win fights. It is about understanding yourself, controlling your mind, and serving something greater than your own glory. I understand, Vextor said, or rather, I do not understand yet. But I wish to learn. Dae-hyun smiled. Then you have already taken the first step. A student who knows he does not understand is ready to learn. A master who thinks he understands everything has stopped growing. In the hallway, Thalric watched this exchange with mixed feelings. His empire had been embarrassed. Their champion had been defeated. But he was wise enough to see the opportunity here. If Vextor could learn these human techniques, perhaps the Krovan military could adapt them. Perhaps they could become even stronger. He stepped into the room. The Krovan Empire would also like to establish a cultural exchange program with Earth, he announced. We wish to learn more about human martial arts and combat philosophy. Jiwoo's eyes widened. This was a diplomatic victory even bigger than the colonies. Cultural exchange with the Krovan Empire would open doors across the galaxy. That would need to be negotiated between our governments, Jiwoo said carefully. But I believe Earth would be very interested in such a program. Thalric nodded. I will communicate with my superiors. Today we learned that the Krovan Empire does not know everything about combat. That is a hard lesson, but a valuable one. Over the next few days, Station Helios 9 buzzed with activity. The formal treaty signing took place in the main council chamber. Dae-hyun attended in his simple training clothes, refusing to wear formal attire. When reporters asked why, he said, "These clothes represent what I am, a martial artist. That is all I need to be." Requests for interviews came from hundreds of media outlets across the galaxy. Dae-hyun declined most of them. He agreed to one press conference where he spoke for 10 minutes about the importance of discipline, training, and respecting your opponents. Then he left, returning to his meditation. But it was a conversation with a group of young aliens that perhaps mattered most. They were students at a combat academy on the station, training to be warriors for their various species. They asked if they could speak with him, and Dae-hyun agreed. "How did you defeat Vextor?" one of them asked. "Everyone said it was impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Dae-hyun said. "But some things are very difficult. I spent 20 years training for fights like that. 20 years of daily practice, of learning from masters, of studying technique. There is no shortcut to mastery." "But your weapon was just wood," another student said. "How did it hurt him?" Dae-hyun picked up his bakken. "This is not just wood. This is the result of 3,000 years of refinement. Ancient masters discovered the perfect length, the perfect weight, the perfect balance. They learned exactly how to strike to cause maximum effect. All of that knowledge is contained in this simple tool." He held the bakken out so they could see it. "In your training, you probably focus on learning many techniques, trying to do impressive things. But true mastery comes from perfecting the basics. A simple strike, practiced 10,000 times until it is perfect, is more valuable than 100 fancy techniques practiced once each." The students listened carefully. This was not what their instructors usually taught them. "Your species has plasma weapons, energy shields, powered armor," one student said. "Why do humans still study ancient combat methods?" "Because the principles never change," Dae-hyun explained. "Technology changes. Weapons change. But the fundamentals of combat remain the same. Balance, timing, distance, reading your opponent. These things were true 3,000 years ago, and they will be true 3,000 years from now. Master the fundamentals and you can adapt to any weapon, any situation." The students thanked him and left, their minds full of new ideas. Several of them would go on to study human martial arts. Over the years, they would spread these teachings to their own species. The philosophy that defeated Vextor would slowly spread across the galaxy. On his last night on the station, Dae-hyun stood at the observation window, looking at the stars. Hana found him there. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About my master," Dae-hyun said. "He passed away 5 years ago. I wish he could have seen this fight. He always said that our martial arts had value, that the ancient ways were not obsolete just because we have modern technology. I think I proved him right." "You did more than that," Hana said. "You showed the entire galaxy that there is wisdom in tradition, that ancient teachings still have relevance. That is a gift that will keep giving long after today's victory is forgotten." Dae-hyun smiled. "Perhaps. But I think the real gift is what comes next. Vextor will study on Earth. Other aliens will follow. They will learn our techniques, but they will also teach us theirs. We will all grow stronger together." "You really believe that?" Hana asked. "That sharing our secrets will make us stronger?" "I know it will," Dae-hyun said. "Knowledge grows when it is shared. My master learned from his master, who learned from his master. Going back generations, that chain of teaching made me who I am. Now that chain extends to the stars. How can that be anything but good?" The next morning, Dae-hyun prepared to leave the station. A shuttle would take him back to the Earth ship waiting in orbit. From there, he would return home. The entire human delegation came to see him off. So did many aliens who had witnessed the fight. They wanted to shake his hand, to touch the bakken, to take pictures.